Hello, Nick Miller, doing my video vlog for YouTube. Last time I talked about my trip to Peru and the difficult time I had in the camioneta going through the Amazon. This time I want to talk about my time spent in Atalaya. I went there to meet a shaman named Pablo. Pablo, upon meeting him, he was, well, I had difficulty with my phone and everything, and I had to call him, but he was a little bit late. But once he got there, one of the first things he said to me was, "Perry rocks. The dogs in this town are really bad, and you might have to throw rocks at the dogs." That was not a good sign. That was one of the main reasons I wasn't able to stay in the town because I couldn't walk freely without being attacked by a dog. And I did not want to throw a rock at a dog, so I spent most of my time in a little cabin that he put me in with no power, a mosquito net, a few candles, and God knows how many snakes, spiders, whatever could be crawling around the Amazon. Although I was in kind of a town, still, it was not a good situation. But I went there to work with him a little bit, so I did have uh, around a week or so where we spent. I spent some time before fasting. I spent some time during fasting. He also had me purge. Was basically he gave me a bucket of water that was full of about half full of brown liquid, and he told me to drink it all, the whole half a bucket. And every third drink, I would vomit. I got about a little over half of that bucket, and he finally came around and said I could stop. So I spent about 30 minutes to an hour vomiting. I did that on two occasions. I also had an outhouse that I had to go to the bathroom in. That was a little sketchy. But then there was another one that was up higher, but everybody could see me kind of, but not really. So that was kind of how that went. Uh, as far as the ayahuasca ceremonies, I did three ayahuasca ceremonies, and they were the best experiences of my life. Pretty close, if not up there, as three of the top experiences ever. My first experience, my first session, and I called it ayahuasca. I think it's a medicine if it's treated right by anybody. And this medicine showed me that I was in the right place at the right time, and that I needed to be there, and that I needed to hear the message, and that's it. And kind of that was all I really gathered from that experience, but it was enough. From the first experience, I went into it. It was an incredible experience. I can't really talk about the pictographs and the images as much as there were some fractals. Uh, but other than that, I just had this overwhelming sense of being where I needed to be. The second ceremony, I went into it with more of an intention of what I needed to do, where was I supposed to go. I was having difficulty with money. My debit card wasn't working. Pablo wanted a lot more money than he had said he wanted. It was a lot of difficult situations, so I went into it just needing to know what was going on. And at one point during this session, I was floating through the universe, and I don't use this term too often, but literally the universe opened up for me, and I heard a voice come out. First time I've ever heard an audible voice in my life, and it said to me, "You need to be a businessman right now." That's not what I wanted to hear. I came to Peru to experience something different, to let go, to cut the chains, and the voice tells me I need to be a businessman. So I take it with a grain of salt, and I go back. And the rest of the ceremony was very interesting as well, but that was really what I took away from that. You need to be a businessman right now. And then the next couple of days, I had Some interesting dreams as well. I'll try and get into those. Uh, Especially, I had one interesting dream, and I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do with my life. So I decided to talk to Pablo and tell him that I needed to get out of the town. I didn't have the money to pay him, and I would get back to him at a future date. But I wanted to do the third ceremony with him and just experience it, and then I would leave on Saturday. So it worked out, and the third ceremony, I was just expecting the moon and back. And what happened was, all that happened was I was remembering a dream. I remembered one dream that I had had a few nights before, and it was just so funny. I kept laughing during my ceremony, which I couldn't have done the first two because there was a third guy with us, a Canadian guy. And the third one, it was just me and Pablo, so I was able to laugh and kind of let some emotion out. But I'll tell you the dream now. The dream, there was an old Hindu man came down to me from heaven. He says to me, Nick, I have a heaven. And I was like, that's great. Oh, you're so lucky. He's like, well, Nick, problem is I have everything you could ever want, but right now all I have is onions. And I laughed for a while, and I actually even told him I had a pizzeria at one point. And I knew what to do with onions. And then at the end, I basically told him, I was like, listen, sir, I know a lot of people, a lot of people. Let me just gather some of my friends. And in the blink of an eye, I went and got everybody I'd ever met in my life. And we all went to heaven together with this Hindu man. And during the ceremony, I just kept thinking about onions. All I had was onions, and I couldn't stop laughing. And for the third ceremony, I expected the moon and back. I wanted the answers. I kept sitting back. I was kept focusing. Give me answers. Tell me what should I do? What should I do? And in the end, my answer was just onions. And I had to figure out for myself what to do. And I did. I went to Machu Picchu. I went to Lake Titicaca. I went home. I got a job. Started saving. I've invested. I've been doing what I need to do as a businessman until who knows the next step. Thanks for listening. Love and peace.